I wanted to unpack a word that you will hear a lot in the world of revenue operations, and it happens to be one of my favorites. The word is rigor. Rigor creates consistency and efficiency. It reduces emotion and anxiety, and it drives alignment. Rigor transforms an organization from machine-like to machine-actual. When you have rigor, you have confidence. You have the insight to understand that you're going to hit this quarter, next quarter, and the quarter after that. That confidence allows you to harness really positive energy that you can take to your board meetings or your team interactions, and you can even bring that positive energy home to your family. Rigor drives a truly human ripple effect because it drives predictability. Uncertainty equals anxiety and stifles creative thinking. When your prefrontal lobe is riddled with anxiety, you can't go into that brainstorm mode because there's a barrier in your way. But predictability equals confidence, removing that roadblock and allowing for a better human emotional experience at scale. Rigor is our weapon against uncertainty. When the pandemic hit, the boldest and brightest tech leaders had one common tactic: find new ways of delivering value to the customer. The rigor around this objective led to powerful predictability in companies like Okta. And we are thrilled to welcome Okta CEO Todd McKinnon to Generation Revenue to talk about his remarkable, rigorous tactics. Todd, it's a privilege.
Thanks for having me. I consider myself part of Generation Revenue, so it's great to be here.
Wanted to pick your brain about predictability. Obviously, we know the downsides of not being predictable are that you miss expectations, which impacts shareholder value. How are you at Okta building predictability into your revenue operations today?
The main thing is, and this is, if you think about the last year, it's been challenging, but the main thing is the model of our company hasn't changed dramatically over the years. So we've built in this predictability in terms of the inputs into the model, whether that's sales capacity or that's demand gen spend, or that's different things we do to move customers and prospects down the buying journey and down the funnel. How those investments relate to the mix of new business versus upsells, different product mix. We haven't had a dramatic change. And I think you see one of the challenging things a lot of companies are facing now that is different than we had is that they're maybe switching from a perpetual license model to a subscription model. And this is more challenging because this makes it's like you have another huge variable, and besides all the complex variables of sales capacity and demand gen, all these things, now you have a model mix, and you're managing different expectations with the customers and how that impact into the sales funnel. So that's a big challenge. So I would say, be consistent with your model, learn how the variables move the needle, and then that's definitely going to change and shift over time. And you got to make sure your business has a tolerance for those shifts. So whether you're setting guidance or investing at a certain level, you have to make sure that your plan has a good, it's adaptable and it has a tolerance to what might actually happen. But that tolerance is in a tight enough band because you have this history and you've built up this good set of forecasting variables to do this. One of the challenging things about the last year has been that forecast variance, that band, that tolerance got really big, right? Because there was so much unprecedented things going on, from impacted industries to demand getting accelerated for some industries, demand getting pushed out for others. And one of the things having this model in place for us allowed us to do during the pandemic was it wasn't like a dramatic reforecast. We just kind of spread the tolerance, and we said there's going to be more uncertainty. It's not like it might be 0 or it might be 100, but we know it's going to be a little bit wider, and we're going to have a little bit more tolerance for moving around within that forecast, but we still have a good sense of where it's going to be overall.
And how are you instilling this culture of predictability, Todd?
I want to be world-class in making sure that the revenue team is not seen as distinct. I want to be seen as very integrated to the product teams, the G&A teams, the rest of the teams in the company, because I think that there's a big advantage if you can have a tight feedback loop. It's one thing to have the product roadmap or the R&D teams doing their thing, and then the revenue team is running along trying to keep up and stay in sync. It's a whole other thing if you really have, and I think a lot of people say this is something they want, but it's actually very hard to do well. You really have a tight feedback loop between people in the field, what they're seeing with customers, what customers need, getting that translated back in a way that's scalable and reusable and broadly applicable to the R&D team. Yep. New products, new enhancements come out, and the loop is closed so that then the revenue team knows how to get customers adopted, knows how to make them successful, that knows how to land new customers. And if you can get that closed loop, it's really, that's the strategic holy grail, and the revenue will follow. So the way you ask the question is like, I almost don't even want to think about it as a distinct revenue team. I just want to think about it as this one node in this closed loop that's going to be better than any competitor, or better than any other company that will work together as a team to make something great for the customer. And you notice in my answer there, there's a big part of it that is not new business. It's not new customers. Well, that's important. I think the foundation of all this, and my advice to everyone listening would be, make sure you figure out how to enhance your customer relationships, get the product broadly adopted, make sure they're getting a lot of value from it, and then you can sell into that. You can upsell modules, or you can upsell capabilities, because I think in this world, the customer relationship is super, super important. And the degree that you can spend or you have to invest to build that customer relationship, you have to be able to deliver a lot of value over that relationship and enhance the revenue for your company. And that's going to lead to so many good things, whether it's the feedback loop I talked about, whether it's a stable foundation to forecast on, and it's just going to make your people in your company feel really good, because they're going to feel good about their customers having success and liking your company and liking them. And it's kind of a fortuitous situation to be in.
Now, you mentioned the feedback loop. What is that closed loop with the go-to-market team?
I think there's a big part of it that is instrumentation and data, especially as your company scales. But one of the big reasons that startups, there's a lot of reasons why startups shouldn't work, right? Startups don't have enough money. It's hard to hire people. They have no brand recognition. But one of the reasons that they have an advantage is because they're fast at this loop, because there's only 10, 15, 20 people, right? So they can be fast at this loop. The salesperson can talk to the product head or the engineering head. The engineering head can talk to the 10 product people and engineers, and they can build it and get it to the customer, and 5 customers have it. That loop is fast. But as we grow, all that conversation gets harder to do, and there's different nuances of different areas of the market and different segments. And so I think instrumentation and doing this in a data-based way is very important. I think a simple thing there is, like, a lot of companies think they're doing this well. They get feedback from the field, the product team knows about it, so they build what the field told them to build, and then they don't know if it ever gets adopted, because they don't have the instrumentation in their product to see what's getting adopted and what customers are using. So it's like they got halfway through that loop, but they didn't close it. They didn't get it out there, didn't get it adopted, didn't get the customer realizing that they're benefiting from the value. So there is a big instrumentation. And then the other part of that instrumentation is not just usage, but it's also the packaging and the skewing, and actually how that's translated into sales opportunities and the sales pipelines and the amount of deals. And so there's a big data analytics part of it. But I never want to lose the people part of it too, because you're never going to design the perfect metrics or the perfect instrumentation that can totally replace smart, motivated people dynamically seeing the world and communicating in a way that can come up with the next insight. So it's definitely got to be a combination. So the way I think about it is, how can we get tiger teams, and how can we narrow down the amount of people that are talking about a certain problem or a certain area of the product or a certain area of the market that needs to be iterated on. And then you get the people process there, and then marry that with the data. Of course, you can't just ignore the fact that, companies that are growing and scaling have many, many, many customers and an aggregate set of data they can learn from. But trying to get those both is, I think, a way to keep this advantage of a small company at scale.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Todd, for your time. Really appreciate it. I just want to close by saying, It's incredible to see Okta's success and your trajectory, and just seeing not only your leadership in the market, but also how your go-to-market engine, your revenue engine has been world-class. And we're happy to play a small role in your success.
I love it. I love the products. Yeah, keep up the good work. I love using the products.
Thank you for everything, Todd.